Okay, the sound part. Well, T3H is supposed to be a more or less immersive experience. We want to create a separation between the visitor inside experiencing and the world outside. And for that we obviously have an architecture, and we also have, or we should have, the visitor's focus on the visualization. Now we only need the visitor's ears on alert to complete the immersion, more or less. Okay, first, I think most of you already heard something from the installation, and it was pretty obvious that we use steady sounds while the experience is running, so there's hardly any moment where you will hear nothing. We did that to create the impression of an ongoing process in the background, that there's always something happening in the background, which is actually the case. That there is not any pause, just a start and the end. We did that because we thought this might keep up a certain level of tension and focus on what is happening inside the installation. And although the sounds only end with the ending of the experience, they may change in its tempo, volume, tension, and a few other parameters. And like for the visualization, this is also derived from the measured values and also from the triggered, from the intro values we just saw in the communicator. Okay, well, for the steady sounds we use ambient drone-like sounds, but we also work with voice samples. You occasionally hear, or most of the time you will hear those voice samples. And the fact that we use voice samples adds another dimension to the sound, because the sound leaves its sort of abstract level and gains another level of semantics, because there are people talking. We basically wanted to picture the non-dialogue between the visitor and the installation. The ongoing monologues you hear in the background, the voices, and the different speech samples, the discrete speech samples you occasionally hear. By that, the experience is gaining a more personal quality, and calls the user to take part in a dialogue or non-dialogue where he has to remain silent in the end. Okay, and to spice it up, we also used certain samples, like we used instruments and special sound events and special effects to bring out certain events, like we also saw in the communicator in this cue. They were called simply effect. Okay, now let's see, or let's hear how it basically works. Okay, well, first of all, a little bit about the architecture. We realized the sonification predominantly in Maximus P. And what you see here is just a basic scheme of what the patch in Maximus P looks like, and just shows, or just is a basic, very basic overview. For the, as a note, for the sound sources, we do not synthesize in a classical way in the patch with Maximus P. We use standard digital audio workstation software for that, like Logic Express and some audio units, and we also recorded those voice samples. Those are, by the way, all the voices of the project members. Yeah. By that, we're having a pool, or we're forming a pool of sound sources, like you see in the red box, and those are sort of interacting with the incoming values. That means the measured values from the sensors, the effect triggers we had, and the excitement level, and so on. And well, the sound is basically made out of two big parts, which is the granular synthesizer and the sampler. And well, what you hear in the granular synthesizer are more like paddish sounds, these ongoing sounds, and like this slice and chopped voices you always hear in the background, these whisperings, and later they go on to speaking a little bit up. For the sampler, we have these discrete sound samples, like for the effects, like instruments, and yeah, effective sounds, and those sounds, and discrete voice samples as well. And those sounds are, the discrete voice samples are processed in another effects patch, which does just some basic delay and tremolo effects to the sound. And all this stuff is led into the panning part of the application. Well, panning is like comes from panorama. So we have an octagonal shaped installation, and it's an evenly shaped octagonal installation. Because of that, it somehow approximates a circle. Yeah, and on every second corner, we have 4 speakers in the installation. We have a quadraphonic configuration there. We have 4 speakers. We have 8 corners, and on every second corner we have a speaker, and well, we simulate a circular surround field, and well, that's called quadraphonic. And what the panning only needs now, as derived from the incoming values, like for instance the swan position, the panning now gets just a degree in angle, or an angle in degree, and it plays the respective sound at the respective position within the quadraphonic field within our installation. Okay, since I only have 5 more minutes, I don't know if I... 2, okay, that's even better. 1? You're hurting me. Okay, maybe I just show you some exemplary sounds. I mean, you heard them anyway, most of you, but I will show you them. I will show you them anyway. So this is an example for the granularized voices we use as a steady background. Hope it works. Well, we obviously don't talk like that, so it's just we recorded just a list of sentences and words and stuff like that, and we put that into the granular synthesizer, and the granular synthesizer with a very loose configuration makes the slicing, chopping, and the sacking and this fitting around within what we recorded here. If you do that with an more or less traditional instrument, or not traditional, or an electric instrument, you might end up with sounds like this here. Okay, 20 seconds. Just only for the effects part, I will show you a discrete voice sample, which I was always talking about, which I played occasionally. Sounds like this.
You're ignoring me all the time, and I'm following you all the time. But here is my place. Now it's your turn.
Okay, and when we run that through into the effects patch, it depends on the measured values we have, but what you hear now is a pretty extremely distorted version of this sample.
You're ignoring me all the time, and I'm following you all the time. But here is my place. Now it's your turn.
Okay, I think I'll leave it at this point now, Héctor.